You've probably heard that coding websites is easier now with AI. So you've tried using ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini and pasted their code suggestion in Squarespace. And sadly, it didn't work. That's because those tools can't access the element that you're trying to customize. And they don't have deep knowledge of Squarespace-specific code patterns, best practices, and guidelines. So I've built Savvy, an AI coding assistant built specifically for Squarespace. Savvy sits right beside your website, lets you click on any element, and even lets you upload reference images, and it instantly generates code and guidance specific to your Squarespace website. To get started, please visit squaresavvy.com. Once you're on the landing page, please click this button to start for free, and you may now sign up with your preferred email address. For standout Squarespace members, please make sure that you sign up with the email that you use to log into our community.squarestylist.com. Once you click the button to create an account, please check your inbox, check your spam folder as well. Make sure to click the confirm email button. It will lead you to the dashboard where you can manage your chat history and then access guides as well as view your account settings. From here, we need to click the Add Chrome extension button that will lead you to the Chrome Web Store listing of Savvy. You may click this Add to Chrome button to add this extension to your Chrome browser. Once added, when you click this extensions icon, you'll find Savvy listed. I recommend pinning it so it'll be accessible anytime on your browser tab. Then on any Squarespace site, you may activate the extension by clicking the icon. And notice that it will open the side panel. The width of this panel can be adjusted. As long as you're logged into the dashboard, then your extension should automatically log you in as well. If that doesn't happen, then simply close the side panel and open it again. Now you'll see your message allowance show up in Savvy, and we can now start using it to customize your Squarespace website. For this tool to be effective, it has to be aware of the element that we wish to customize. So we use this pointer tool at the bottom left of our side panel. We click this and notice it turns gold when it's active. And when we hover over any part of our Squarespace site, it highlights the element. So this orange border and overlay specify the element that we are selecting. Once we click that element, you'll notice that our side panel will reflect the element that we just selected. It says right here it is an image, and you can even click this accordion that reveals the context, including the block ID, but most of the time you don't have to look through that. Make sure you have a selected element before you start asking. So for example, we can ask it to help add a border to this image. Note that the more information that you share, the better the result will be. I'm asking Savvy to add a border to this image. And we all know that adding borders to images in Squarespace is quite nuanced. So I've pre-prompted Savvy to be aware of those common code patterns. So right here, if I copy the code using the copy icon, we can head to the CSS panel by clicking anywhere in our Squarespace dashboard and then hitting the / on our keyboard and start typing CSS. This is where we'll paste the code provided by Savvy. And notice that the border has been added. This is an image that is set to fit, and that's why it's quite nuanced. But you'll notice sometimes on edit mode, it might not look like it is adding the border correctly, but when we open our site on a no redirect browser, by adding this no redirect parameter, we'll find that the border is showing up correctly. And know that you can continue your conversation from here. It's even proactive, asking if you'd like to add rounded corners. Of course, that's something that you can add using the built-in options within the image blocks. We can configure that right here, and we'll notice that the border will be adapting to the corner radius as well, so we don't need that. But if you have like further customizations that you wish for this particular customization, then feel free to have a conversation with Savvy. Note as well that our assistant is trained to use the variables of Squarespace, so it's using the variable paragraph medium color, so it will respond to the color of the theme. So even if I change the colors under the color theme and hit save, we'll find that the border will adapt to the color of our text. So this will make sure that even if you change the color theme, this border will still be visible. But of course, if you wish to use particular color instead of the ones that are defined in the style settings, then you can definitely add the hex code right here. And there are like guidance provided by Savvy as well. So for example, I can change it to red like so. Now, if you wish to customize another element, then I recommend starting a new chat. And from here, we clear any selected elements from before. For instance, if I wish to change these default bullet points with something more on brand or custom, then I can select this text block. So once that text block is selected, I can specify that I'd love to change the default bullet points to a custom graphic, and Savvy will give me guidance on how to go about it. It mentions that we need to remove the default bullet point first, so I can start by adding that so we can also see how it changes the site. So if I go to the very end of our custom CSS panel and add that code, we'll notice that the default bullet points were removed, and I'm just gonna adjust the screen size. From here, it says we can use a simple icon, or we can also provide a complex graphic. So for this instance, I actually would like to use a custom brand icon. So I'll right click and use this copy as SVG option. If you're using Adobe XD, you'll also see this option. And then I'll simply reply with the SVG that I just copied. So this is the custom SVG that I wish to use, and just paste it right there. Once I send it, you'll find a preview of that SVG, and we'll see how it incorporates that into our bullet list. It might take a few seconds before the code is fully loaded. So before copying it, I recommend waiting it out. An indication that it's done generating the code is it will explain the code briefly. So now that we have this explanation, I can copy this, and I recommend like looking into the options that Savvy is giving right here, because you might want to explore like changing the width, height, and even changing the colors. But for now, I'll just copy this and see how it will apply the custom SVG icon right there. Now we have a more on brand list. I understand that most of the time, the customizations that we wish to achieve are best described visually than by words. So the Savvy is also trained to be visual. So for example, if we wish to create some customizations for sections like this gallery section, then it's best for us to share some reference images, maybe from a mockup or from a reference website. So I can ask, I would love the caption of this gallery item to show up on hover, similar to the attached image. My favorite way to attach an image is to just paste all the references to my Figma file or Adobe XD, and then I'll right click and copy as PNG, and then I'll tap Command V right in the chat box, and it will paste the image right there. You may also click this plus icon to open your folders and select images. You may attach up to 2 images per message. So once we send this, it will analyze the image along with the accompanying text, and we'll note that it gives rationale behind the code that it provided. Notice that the overlay color is set to 60%, and it also scoped this to only apply to desktop because the hover action is not reliable on mobile. So let's see how it shows up. If I add this to our custom CSS, I tapped Command arrow down on my keyboard to go to the very last line of our custom CSS. And if I paste this, let's see, on desktop view, now this captions show up on hover as we've envisioned. Now, because Savvy is occupying some space in your browser, it could be that you don't have enough space to view the desktop view. One option is to change the size of the side panel. Another option is to open it on a no redirect browser. And another option is for you to change the zoom percentage. So if I make it smaller, then right here we'll have a better view of the desktop version. And then from here, it also is proactively suggesting if we'd like to apply this same customizations to other gallery sections. So in this case, if you want to, then it will ask you to use anchor IDs. So for example, yes, I would like to apply this to other sections. Then it will reply with this, which is the instruction to add an anchor link to this section. I can do that right here. If I say edit section and set this value to gallery -hover as instructed by Savvy. Now, instead of using the data section ID, we can now use this improved code such that we can apply this to other sections within the site. So if I copy this and replace the initial code with this one, then if we go and save this as a saved section, we can actually bring this customization to another page. Now if I add the section from our saved section, it isn't showing up just yet until we edit the section and add the same anchor link, which is gallery -hover. Savvy can also help with JavaScript customizations. So for example, I select this entire blog post and I would like to add an estimated reading time below the blog title. So let's see how it will approach this ask. It says it requires a JavaScript, but all we need to do is add these codes to the JavaScript code injection footer area. So I'll copy this code, head to the code injection area by, again, tapping the / and typing code injection. In the footer area, we paste this code. And then it says we also need to add this custom CSS. So I'll copy the one for CSS and head to the very last line of our code and then paste it. We'll find that it says 1 minute read and it will mention how this is calculated, and it is calculated based on average reading speed of 200 words per minute. So far, the examples have been working well, but I'd like to emphasize that Savvy is AI and it can make mistakes. It is not a replacement for human judgment. Actually, it doesn't have a context of all the CSS, all the JavaScript that are affecting the Squarespace site. It is only aware of the elements of the site and the coding patterns and best practices that I've trained it with, but you'll find that it might get frustrating in some cases because it might get to about 90% of what you envision and it cannot finish the rest of the 10%. And that's where human intervention and your knowledge of code will be really handy. For instance, if I would like this read more text to have a different verbiage, for example, I wish to change it to view project, I'll simply ask, please change the read more text to view project while this block item is selected. And we'll see that it will generate some code that we can paste to our CSS panel. So if I copy this and paste it right here in our CSS panel. Note that if it doesn't mention where to paste it, you can still ask it, but most of the time it's the CSS. If it's in the injection area, it will definitely mention that. The text was successfully changed to view project, but then there is an issue because there seems to be a line that strikes through the text. And we can share a screenshot of this and send to the chat to ask the Savvy assistant to help us troubleshoot it. But then it might have a hard time really identifying what's causing it because, as I mentioned, it doesn't have access to all of the style sheets and scripts within Squarespace. We may try pasting a screenshot of the issue, and it will also try to come up with solutions, but then we might already use up all our message allowance and still not come up with the correct answer. So that could be frustrating, but this can actually be easily identified by just using the inspector tool. So your knowledge of inspecting the element and identifying the CSS rules affecting the site would be really useful. So you'll find that when we look into the blog more link element, that strike through is actually caused by this background color. So I cannot stress enough that while we have this useful tool powered by AI, I always say that AI is only as good as the questions we ask. So our knowledge of code foundations is the key to unlock the full power of any tool that is available to us. That said, these questions also allow me to continuously improve the tool. That's why within the history panel, if you click this icon, you can rename the specific conversations. For example, read more link, and then you can click this ellipsis icon to share your feedback. So what happens is when you share your feedback, the entire conversation will be sent to me and I will be able to review that. And if you have suggestions on how to improve how Savvy answers the questions, please do leave them here, but this is optional. But that would give me the permission to look through the conversation and maybe use that as a way to train Savvy further. Now you can also use this share feedback to share wins. So I'd love to see what you're creating with Savvy, how you're loving it. That will empower us to continue improving the tool as well. So if you'd like to share any code discoveries, any feedback, please do share the feedback here. It will give me access to that conversation. Alternatively, you may visit the support menu in our dashboard for more details. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about Savvy.